First of all, we had to decide on the name of a borough. Now, a lot of us didn't want to be called Camden. I won't say why. And we certainly would not have the coat of arms of the Earl of Camden. So a lot of us came up with this idea of having the hands clenched like this. As you know, that goes in a circle. That means we're working together in the borough.
I always remember the first council meeting. It started at 7 p.m. at night and finished at 7 a.m. the following morning. And I didn't leave the council chamber all that time. We had a lot to get through, and we did get through.
It was quite heady, really. And I can remember, because I was elected in 1971, so Camden was 6 years old. And there was a very clear memory of what had preceded Camden. The constituent boroughs. And there was still a sense that the borough was building its identity.
When I became leader, I inherited a manifesto which was very thick, and it had all sorts of radical proposals in it. The establishment, for the first time, of a women's committee, of a race relations committee, a police committee, all things which the Tories obviously detested and regarded as completely unnecessary, but which we saw as important for the time.
I was very lucky because when I came onto the council, there were a lot of councillors who were still on and who were older than me and had been around. Phil Turner, Roy Shaw, who had been there for ages, and sort of going to the pub was like having a tutorial lesson in Camden politics.
When I was first elected leader, yes, it was scary, because it's one thing being deputy leader, it's quite another when the buck stops with you, as it does, and quite rightly. But after, I just thought, my God, it'll all go pear-shaped, or it might all go pear-shaped. After 6 months, though, I just grew to love it. It was exasperating, demanding, fun, infuriating, endlessly interesting.
I think all councillors, whatever political persuasion, presumably I think have stood to be a councillor because they want to make the area they represent, the area they live in, even better.
The heritage of the authority is absolutely incredible, and I'm really very aware that I stand on the shoulders of giants in this role. So there's a lot of things that we're doing now as a Labour administration that we wouldn't be doing if it weren't for our predecessors.
Bearing in mind that we're celebrating 50 special years this year, there were a lot of mayors, and I think I am the 51st mayor, to be honest. So I'm at the bottom of the line, where there are some that have done it more than once. And I've actually asked some of them for advice before I started. So I'd say I'm inspired by all of them because they were all very different.
I think one of them moved me most was when we used to go at Christmas to the children's hospital, and you went round there, and the nurses were wonderful, but you felt so sorry, and you had to be so cheerful speaking to those children, but it really hurt one in a way.
We opened the Langtry Children's Centre, I remember, on a Saturday morning, and it was a beautiful building. It was buzzing with a sense of optimism and enthusiasm. And I remember thinking, this is the purpose of local government at its very best.
We put on a show for the council. They allowed us to do it at a council meeting, and they agreed unanimously, that Tory and Labour, that we should have the money, 3 million quid. Not me personally have it, but it should be put to the modernisation of all pre-war blocks of flats. That, to me, is the greatest thing in the world. And even today, I go around past Kenniston House and places like that, and I feel a sense of pride.
I know, going back to the leaders of the 70s were talking about a housing crisis in London. I think it's far worse now, but actually issues of affordability and quality of housing have been around for a long time, and each generation of councillors comes up with their own solutions for that. And obviously councillors that have been around for a really long time, like Councillor Robinson, Councillor Fulbrook, actually are just really helpful in reminding us of some of the things that have been tried in the past, and maybe we should try them again, or maybe we shouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past. And actually having that, being able to access that history and that knowledge is hugely important.
Initially there was a cap on the rate called rate capping, and then later a cap on your budget. And this gave obviously a financial challenge, but if I'm honest, also a cultural challenge, because people would be grown up steeped in that, you know, the council would find the money, it would make things happen.
The Labour group wanted to close a number of libraries. I think some of their own members were not very happy about it. The public were definitely, a lot of them, very vocal, so there were very good active groups, CPlug and the like, complaining, and we won. It was a great night and high drama all around, and I think the public were very pleased to see democracy had prevailed, and we had said that it needed to be properly consulted on. Camden had a poor record of public consultation, and the thing was kicked into touch, and lo, the libraries were saved.
It was a very exciting moment when St Pancras Station went from being sort of a dirty old Midland Line station to the gateway to Paris and Brussels, with the opening of, you know, the magnificent new St Pancras International. But it wasn't the only beautiful old building that we had a hand in Camden. Another one is the Prince of Wales swimming baths. Those were two of the things that helped us to achieve a score as the top council in the country. We achieved a perfect score in the ratings for councils throughout the country. So that was something we were very proud of.
I think the proudest moment for me was when we had the mayor making, which was the day that I was made the mayor, and just to go away dressed with my normal clothes and come back as the mayor must have been the most proud moment that I've had in my life.
Some of the highs were being involved with the education service in Camden. We have, I think, some of the best schools in London, and in being involved with those young people. And again, the energy that they supplied, and many of them were at the forefront of, for example, the Stop the War demonstrations that happened during that time. And I remember even pupils at sixth form colleges walking out of their lessons in protest, and that's the atmosphere that there is in Camden.
I'm very excited actually, because Camden's constantly developing, as you can see from the cranes behind me. I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly worried about the cuts, and I hope the youth services are protected, but I think within the Youth Council we're constantly developing. Like last year for Make Your Mark we got 4,000 young people voting, and the year before that we only had 300, so that's an incredible increase, and this year we're aiming for even higher.
We worked hard with working with the police, because there was lots of people and political people who wanted us not to work with the police. We got sort of treated badly at public meetings.
The spot in my face, they kicked me. That was the downside of the spot. I mean, it kicked me. But I was determined. I think we're right to form this conservative group. At that time, I had a three-wheeler, a Robin. So this is the laughable bit. They turned the Robin over.
Thatcher had decided that local government was a point of resistance to her policies and her strategies. First of all, they got rid of the GLC because, you know, Ken Livingstone was such a major opponent of Thatcher. They got rid of the Inner London Education Authority. Local authorities were rate capped from 1987 onwards, every year. Very, very difficult times, I think.
Not the loony bit. I mean, you know, it was typical of that sort of thing, you know, these apocryphal stories you got in the Daily Mail and so on about, you know, banning black sheep, all that nonsense, and black plastic, you know. So left wing, certainly I was, and certainly a significant proportion of the group were, not all, and there were some, you know, quite noticeable splits and disagreements in the group, no doubt about that. There were genuine differences.
There was a culture that didn't really believe in management. In fact, somebody once told me that we shouldn't do management training because we didn't apply that to all staff, so it would be unfair to train managers, and consequently managers were not able to manage.
We did have quarrels over that, because I'm not loony left, and you know, there was problems. I think that was part of the policing when we first, and often the other things. But when I look back and I see one or two of my colleagues from time to time, and some of them were politically different to me, you know, and yeah, but we got there. We did have silly things happening, but then I thought, you know, that happens now, doesn't it?
Some of it was loony, and I think some of it was much more concentrated on protest than it was on running the borough for the benefit of the residents. And if you're elected, then that's why you're elected.
We went out to investigate, and we established there had been a fire, there had been at least a death. At that stage we didn't know the scale of the deaths. I made some phone calls to some senior officers. I went back out and I introduced myself to the people, and they actually said to me, can you make arrangements for a mortuary? Which was the first time I'd ever been, which obviously was a startle, and I said, well, by that stage we were being told 2 deaths, and they said it's a lot more.
It was particularly frightening for me because my eldest son, Stuart, was a firefighter at the time. He's now in his early 60s, he's trying. And he was at Kentish Town. And I'd come from a meeting, funnily enough, with the police officer sergeant. Whatever's going on, there's helicopters, and we came down here, and then we were told what it was. And I was really quite terrified because I heard that, you know, I thought Stuart might be there. He wasn't. And we thought a lot more firefighters had died than did. It was bad enough that, but a lot of other people died.
You can see the smoke in the atmosphere. And up to the day, it's still etched on my mind, and it makes me really, not always shed a tear, but nearly always. I've been to all of those that died. At the time, as mayor, I went to Irby's funeral.
There was the bus with its top all blown off. There was the explosion in King's Cross. The town hall had to be evacuated. That was in the morning. People were frightened. I think people were outraged, actually. Just, we are not going to let this stop us talking to our neighbour, getting on with our community festivals, reaching out to people who may dress differently, may have a different colour skin, may have a different religion. You know what? We're really not going to be pushed around.
It's a very cohesive borough. It's a borough that's where communities are pleasant and progressive and talk to each other, and people don't build barricades around themselves, and that, I think, means that it will survive. You know, these difficult times, but you know, we come over difficult times. We've gone through difficult times before, and we'll go through them again. And as long as we can maintain that unity and the cohesiveness, then I think Camden has a great future.
The challenge for Camden is, can it retain that diversity? Can it still be that place where lots of different people of different incomes can live? And the fear is that it's drifting away to be an inner London borough where only the rich can live.
These are very difficult times, and I hope it will bring the borough together, not create great division, because my children went to school here, they went to primary school, they went to secondary school here. This borough matters a lot to me. It matters a lot to me that it works well.
I still want Camden to be the best local council in the country, and aspire to that, even with very constrained resources, to be a beacon that others could look at, learn from, perhaps emulate. I am proud of Camden, but I don't want to underestimate some of the difficulties and challenges it's had, and it will have.
We're here to help people, and I think anything you can do, however minor it is or whatever it is good, and it's part of what we're here on earth to do. Now that may sound silly, but it's not. To me, there's a saying: if you stop caring, you die. And I think if you stop caring, that you're not going to do any good for yourself or for the world, and that's why we're here. We're here to work to make a better world for people outside that we represent.
I just hope in 50 years there'll be more young people involved. We'll have a vote at 16, and there'll be lots of young councillors and young people feeling they can approach their councillors and they can approach their MPs and they know who they are. Camden is such a community, everyone's so together at the moment, and I just want that to build and develop and until we're an unbreakable unit.